Good afternoon. Welcome to the third meeting of the Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs. Ms. Whitesell, please call roll.
Senator Cruz Crawford.
Here.
Senator Dondero Loop. Senator Rogish. Assemblymember Edgeworth. Assemblymember Hunt. Assemblymember Karras.
Present.
Assemblymember Patchett. Here. Chair De Silva.
Present. Ms. Whitesell, please mark the members who are not present absent excused. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, I would like to remind everyone to please silence all your electronic devices, especially cell phones and laptops, during the meeting. The committee's meeting materials can be found on the committee's webpage located on the Nevada Legislature's website. You can also sign up for electronic notifications related to any activity on the committee's website. If you wish to testify in person, please sign in at the table by the door and leave a business card. If you do not testify, you may also want to sign in so there is a record of who is interested in a particular topic, and in the event the committee needs to contact you later. When testifying in person, please turn the microphone on, speak directly into the microphone, and turn the microphone off when you are done speaking. We have listeners and viewers in Carson City and online. The meeting is being recorded and is available on the legislature's website. We will have a public comment period at the beginning and end of the meeting. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. In addition to testifying in person, members of the public may provide public comment in 4 different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. We can provide public comment by calling, emailing, or mailing your comments. You can find the phone numbers, email address, and mailing address on the agenda. With that, let's get started. We will start with public comment from those in the physical locations and then move to public comment from anyone who has called in. Is there anyone in Las Vegas who would like to provide public comment at this time? Please step forward.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is In Young Oh. I'm a member of Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association in Nevada. In the name of Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association in Nevada, I'd like to share our issues and to present the request for registration to recognize and naturalize U.S. citizens, Nevada residents who served in the Republic of Korea Armed Forces during the Vietnam War as veterans in Nevada. For many of these members, time is very short. They are aging and some are declining health. Passing this registration would ensure them honor, dignity, and recognition with a minimum cost and expenses. This is about the fairness and the respect. These veterans fought in combat, risked their lives alongside American soldiers as allied forces, and later chose the United States, Nevada State as their home. They deserve to be recognized at home. The bill draft is prepared for further reviews. I respectfully ask you to support the bill. I thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. Thank you for having me. My name is Stacy Dubowich. I am here on behalf of myself and my former husband, my ex-husband, who is an Iraqi war veteran. I'm also here on behalf of several nonprofits called Senior Resource Nevada and Alzheimer's Association, and helping to let you guys know that there's certain bills where we'll be asking for more monies for a respite waiver for older adults who may have cognitive impairment, that they can receive respite services. The caregiver burden is significant. Nevada, as I'm sure you're aware, is the fastest growing state for older adults. That includes veterans and others and their spouses. So I will probably see you again later this week, but I wanted to thank you and say hello. Thank you.
Okay, seeing nobody here in Las Vegas, we'll go down to Carson City.
Chairman De Silva and other council. My name is David Souza, spelled S-O-U-S-A, a Nevada resident of 25 years, United States Army retiree, Bronze Star recipient, and Combat Action Badge recipient with combat deployments in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, multiple peacetime and humanitarian deployments to Kenya and Somalia. I'm a veteran advocate for numerous organizations, a leader of the Nevada community. I'm here to seek your support for a bill to grant Gold Star families in Nevada free access to Nevada state parks. This bill failed in the last legislative session, and it left the 654 Nevada Gold Star families from receiving this benefit. Some of you may not know the definition of a Gold Star or survivor. A Gold Star is a widow, widower, parent, and the next of kin of a United States Armed Forces member killed in combat operations. A survivor is the immediate family member of the United States Armed Forces member who die in service outside of a combat theater operations. These are your constituents. I would like to ask for your help in creating a bill to have it as the first bill passed by the upcoming session to support these Gold Star families to receive free Nevada State Park access. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing nobody in Carson City coming to the table, AVH, is there anybody on the phone lines?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. There will be another public comment period at the end of the meeting. You can submit a written statement, which will be added to the record. Please submit your written statement no later than 48 hours after the meeting. Before we get started with our presentations, I want to pass it over to Destiny Cooper, Committee Policy Analyst, to provide you with information relating to the committee on our BDRs for the August meeting. Ms. Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Destiny Cooper, Committee Policy Analyst for the record. The Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs will hold a work session to consider certain recommendations at its fourth and final meeting in August. Committee staff will review meeting materials and testimony received at prior meetings to develop a list of recommendations for review by the Chair and possible consideration by the committee during the work session. The committee invites all interested parties to provide recommendations in writing for possible consideration during the work session. The committee has an allocation of no more than 6 bill draft requests per the Nevada revised statutes, which may be submitted for consideration by the 2027 legislature. The legislative measures must be relevant to matters within the scope of the committee as set forth in NRS 218E.760. In addition to the BDRs, the committee may draft letters to specific individuals and organizations urging certain action or include positional statements in the committee's final report. Please note, submission of a recommendation to the committee does not guarantee consideration during a work session. The guidelines can be found listed on the memo along with other submission details. This can all be found on the committee webpage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. At this time, we'll begin with our presentations. Our first presentation will be from the Nevada Department of Veteran Services. And to start today, we have a presentation from the Director Devine, who's here with us. So please begin when you're ready. Thank you.
Chair Director Devine, the slides, are you putting the slides up? Are they here? Perfect, thank you. Chair Committee Director Devine, for the record, Mary Devine, Devine. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak with you today. We have many members of our team, NDVS team, here with us today. We also have Mr. Wendell Blaylock, the chair of the Veterans Service Commission, with us today. And as you can see, there's a lot of hats in the room to talk to you about what's important to veterans, and I appreciate that. Here's our mission. Pretty straightforward and simple: to serve Nevada's veterans by honoring their remarkable legacy and by connecting them to their earned benefits and services. Our vision is that all Nevada veterans and their families understand and can connect to their benefits and services that they have earned. This extends beyond just their federal benefits that are earned through the federal VA, but to all the different state benefits that are available. Currently, Nevada has, if you go to the next slide, approximately, the numbers fluctuate. We know that we have about 215,000 veterans, but that represents a small number of the veterans that have not been connected. And there's a much larger number of veterans that have not been connected to their benefits. This slide provides you an opportunity to see kind of the demographic breakdown of our veterans, both which conflicts they've served in, as well as where they live within the state of Nevada. I think it's worth note to say that 7% of the adults in Nevada are veterans, which is higher than the national average, as well as 11.5% of our women veterans are here in Nevada, again, higher than the national average. We're hovering right around 12,273 active duty members in Nevada, and that does include our members of the National Guard, both Air and Army. We've not received the newest information from our latest PIT count, which is the point in time count to tell us the most recent number of homeless vets, but we have been hovering right around 644 veterans experiencing homelessness, both north and south. The next slide provides you with an understanding of how the department is broken out. We have about 265 full-time equivalents authorized across the department. If in the lower corner, you see that we have about 229 of those positions filled. Our largest challenges will be covered a little bit later, but they are within our clinical positions, both CNAs, nurses, and RNs and LPNs. Taking a look at the organizational chart, you can see that we have our Deputy Director of Benefits. That is Ro Ferrer. He is specifically focused on, as you'll see in the next slides, connecting our veterans to specific benefits. We have our Deputy Director of Healthcare Services, Mr. Mark McBride, who does work specifically with our homes, suicide prevention, and things like that. Personnel Officer 1, that is our HR. We have a specific HR department. We have an amazing team of about 4 people working on our HR issues. Ms. Terry Hendry, who is taking pictures somewhere in the room, is our amazing Public Affairs Officer. She and her team do a great job. We also have our Administrative Services Officer, which we'll talk a lot about over the next portion of the briefing. Joe Thiele oversees grants, contracts, our accounts payable, receivable, and all of our finance operations. And then we have Mr. Brandon Torres that oversees our IT departments in both homes and all throughout the department. You see a Deputy Division Administrator position. This is a position that we are looking to grow. The department is looking in the next legislative session, we should be reviewing the manpower and the needs of both of our homes, as well as in construction for a third home. So you'll hear more about how we would like to grow out our administrative functions, as well as how the administrative officer and the executive assistant will work together. The next few slides really talk about the lines of effort and the things that we are working on within the department. And I will not go into the greatest detail of every word on these slides because they're pretty busy, and I think you will have time to review them. But what I think is very important as we work across these lines of effort, both in benefits and healthcare services, is what's on the furthest right-hand side. Really, our enduring goals are helping our veterans access the appropriate services, connecting them to their earned benefits, providing quality and skilled nursing and rehabilitative care, providing our dignified burial support, managing effective programs to address our needs, successfully and assisting in successfully reintegrating our returning service members and our veterans into our communities, honoring service and sacrifice of Nevada's veterans and their families, and assisting in coordinating efforts and activities of service organizations and individuals for the benefit to Nevada's veteran service members and their families. As we go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about our program development portion of our organization. This is a really important thing. The program development portion of the Nevada Department of Veteran Services really is focused on pulling together that web of support across multi-communities. When I talk about that, it's really working with our veteran service organizations and our other state agencies to make sure that we build that web of support so that none of our veterans fall through the cracks, that we make sure that we actively are working with benefits, healthcare, whether that's the Department of Housing, the Department of Human Services, our veteran service organizations, all of the governmental departments, to make sure that we create a one place where our veterans can go to get connected to their benefits. I'll talk a little bit more about that in January of 2026, we held the what we call the Directors Summit, where I brought 25 nonprofit and government organizations together in Reno to sit down and talk about what are the needs of our veteran community. It was an amazing event. The result of that event has been that our veteran service organizations, all of the groups that are sitting behind me, but also some of our lesser known veteran service organizations, such as PTSD Now, Nation's Finest. US Vets was not at the table, but we have subsequently met with them and talked about how do we braid and pull together all of these different services that are out there in our communities, in our very generous Nevada community, to make sure that we're working together and we're developing depth within our communities to make sure that our veterans are supported. This is the area where we really do that. We talk about the strategic community engagement. What can we do not only this year, but next year, and 5 years, and 10 years from now to meet the changing demographic of our veterans community? Our administrative branch with our finance and human resources, I'll tell you, with my prior service background as a money manager, auditor, and all of those contracting things that I did on the federal side, I've been keeping our finance team jumping. They've done a lot of great work in taking a look at how and what we can do with efficiencies with our contracts within our homes and other areas within the cemeteries and other things, as well as we've been very active in applying for grants. And we'll talk more about the grants as we move through here. We also have not only the two homes, one in Boulder City and one in Sparks, Nevada. We also have the two cemeteries. We have two headquarters offices, one here on the McCarran Complex, one on Gateway Drive in Reno. We also have 17 different locations where our veteran service officers work. And that keeps us jumping, making sure that we know that those facilities are maintained, working specifically with State Public Works and some of the other state organizations and the other county organizations that we work with. So if you go to the next slide, I kind of want to take you through some of the things that we've been working on with recruitment and retention of the clinical staff. DHRM has been very helpful to us to provide some opportunities on how we can change the way that we hire our CNAs to help our homes. And that is proving to be successful. We are closing the gap on what is usually about 20 to 24 vacant CNA positions. And you'll likely ask, well, if you have 24 vacant, how are you covering what needs to happen at the homes? We do that a lot with agency hires. So we have contract CNAs that come in and cover that gap when we don't have full staffing at our homes. We have a couple different things in the increase. One of the challenges is our increased cost of construction. As many of you are aware, we asked for the construction dollars for the Decatur home in the last legislative session. The Decatur home did not come out on the VA list for construction this year. It will come out on the 2027 list. That will be our first look at where the Decatur home will sit for VA federal funding. The remodel of the Boulder City home still sits at item number 12 on the federal VA list for matching funds, because these projects are all 35% state, 65% federal. So it is not likely that we will receive funding for the remodel of the Boulder City home this federal fiscal year. We are working with State Public Works and the fiscal analyst to see if there's some other opportunities for us to take care of the remodel of that home. The increasing cost of construction and the changes in licensing and requirements for construction make both of those projects very important. To talk about the Decatur or the Boulder City home, right now Boulder City houses about 180 veterans. They are in primarily dual occupancy rooms. The remodel will take us from a 180 bed facility down to a 120 plus bed facility, but it will be all private rooms. It will be all private bathrooms and much more in line with the federal guidelines of the small home construction. That's why the Decatur home is so important, because that's another 128 bed facility, which will allow Southern Nevada to grow by just over 60 beds when both facilities are built. We currently in Nevada have about 650 veterans that need skilled nursing care. So the number of beds that we have in state homes does not match the need for the number of state beds. We are assisting veterans. We have a wait list in Boulder City of approximately 20, anywhere between 15 and 20 veterans at any given time. Our need in Northern Nevada is a little bit greater. The Northern Nevada home is a 98-bed facility with a waiting list of 44 beds. So as we build out into the future and we talk a little bit more as we go on through the briefing about our strategic goals, you will see within our next legislative session that we will request planning and design money for expansion of the Northern Nevada Veterans Home to accommodate that wait list of 40 to 50 people that have been consistently over the course of the last 6 months on wait lists for that home. The other major challenge that when I sat in front of you about 2 years ago was participation and engagement in veteran service organizations. I'm very proud to say that we have come a long way with engaging with our veteran service organizations. As I mentioned before, Nevada has a very generous and very veteran supportive community all across the state. And I can see and I can tell you from the gentlemen and ladies sitting behind me and the ones on the other end, we have a great network of supporters for our veterans, and our veteran service organizations as well as the department are working together. Our budget priorities that will come before you here in a few short months, staffing, we will always ask for additional veteran service officers. Our veteran service officers right now work at about one, and this is not just the department's veteran service officers, these are the veteran service officers that work with DAV, American Legion, Paralyzed Vets, Catholic War Vets, and the other accredited veteran service organizations. We have about a ratio of 1 to 9,000, one veteran service officer to about 9,000 veterans. If you look at a state that's got a comparable size of veterans, which could be, we benchmark a little bit off of Arkansas. Arkansas uses a model which is much more in line with one veteran service officer to about 3,500 veterans. So if you look at right now, when you talk to the Veterans Benefit Administration, Nevada has about 7,000 open claims that veterans are currently working to get connected to their veteran service benefits. Those are spread out through veterans working their own claims and all of those other accredited veteran service organizations that I mentioned working their claims. We did some math looking at it today. In the last 6 months or the last quarter, our veterans claims are being closed at actually a really reasonable rate. The average time of closing a claim right now with the Veterans Benefit Administration is just over 90 days. Now we have some that are much beyond that. We have some that are much shorter than that. For the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, in the last quarter, we took in 1,600 new actions. We had 448 positive outcomes, resulting in an increase of about $545,000 per month in our veterans and disability payments. Within those transactions that we helped our veterans with, there were retro payments, which means from the time our veterans over the first quarter of the calendar year received retroactive payments to the date back to when they filed their claims of just over $1.4 million. So our veteran service officers, now this is a slice of what our department does. But all of those organizations I mentioned, their veteran service officers are highly trained and they're helping our veterans every day. And it's turning into buying power and peace of mind and helping our veterans put gas in their tank and food on their tables and pay rent in this increasingly more challenging and expensive time. So our veteran service officers will be out there as something that we have as a budget priority. I mentioned our capital improvement projects. Building and building maintenance is very important to us. Our Boulder City our Boulder City Cemetery is the second busiest cemetery in the country. They have interned over 1,500 vets in this state fiscal year. Chris Naylor and his team are an amazing group of people. And that cemetery, if you have not been there, it is stunningly beautiful and a great place of reflection. Mr. Perzina and I were there yesterday, and there was no less than 25 families paying honor to their loved one in the cemetery all day yesterday. It was a very beautiful place. We're also working to the Boulder City Cemetery. You will see our request for capital improvements. It's time to expand again. We are, from where we are interning veterans to our one chapel is over a mile, which is too far for our families to walk, specifically in the summer. So we will be asking for design money to expand to another chapel, expand the roadways, the water, and all the support that's necessary to keep that cemetery looking as beautiful as it is. I thank you for the approvals that happened last legislative session and the session before for our committal building at the Northern Nevada Cemetery. We will have for the first time an enclosed chapel at that cemetery where we can hold services throughout the winter months where our families don't have to be out in the elements. It's beautiful. It sits up on the hill overlooking the whole cemetery. It's a full wall of glass and it is a beautiful building. That should be done in the fall of this year. We'll be talking to you a little bit on the governor's finance office about equipment and equipment replacement and maintenance. We'll have lists for you of every piece of equipment within our cemeteries and our homes that is in excess of 10 years old, and we have a lot of it. Our cemetery workers are a lot more than groundskeepers. They're social workers, they're hand holders, and they are the compassionate ear that our families of our veterans see as they are paying their final respects to their veteran. And it's time for us to take a look at their equipment and for us to ask you if we can upgrade a lot of the different things that they have. The other thing that we have out here is workforce development. I think that it's very important for our workforce to be as professionally developed and as administratively competent as possible. So in that area, we'll be talking specifically about our veteran service officers and the additional training that we can provide not only to our state employees, but our contracted veteran service officers and to all the veteran service officers that are accredited within the state, that being, again, DAV, Paralyzed Vets, all of them, VFW, and Catholic War Vets, so that we can make sure that their training is at the highest level, so they have the ability when they're sitting down with a veteran to know what the most cutting edge and the technology that's available, as well as the training that is out there. IT security, this is one that will always stay near and dear to me. We work with a lot of PII, personally identifiable information, and we work with a lot of HIPAA. I want to make sure that my IT department is as professionally trained as they possibly can be and work with Tim Galusi's office to make sure that we don't have any breaches of our veterans' information. Travel might seem like a little bit of a strange one to have on there, but if you think back to the slide that I showed you about the demographic, we have veterans in every corner of the state. And it's important for me to be able to get our veteran service officers out there. And it's important for me and for my deputy directors and all of the staff to get out there and meet those veterans where they are and have those conversations about the benefits that you pass and that you bring to fruition so that we can connect them with those benefits and improve their life where they're at. We are in full swing of budget planning, and you will see that our requests are driven by outcomes and strategic planning and what we want to deliver to our veterans. Everything that we ask for will be backed up by the data and the research, so we can show you what we will be investing into Nevada's veterans for improvement of their life. Next slide. I think it's important to give you a real look at where we're at. Where are our strengths? We have an amazing team. And when I say we have an amazing team, that's not just our contractors. That's not just our state employees. That's all of our veteran service organizations. That's all of the team in total. there isn't a day goes by that the people that are sitting behind me and that are on the screen in Northern Nevada don't do something to change the life of a veteran. And many are veterans themselves, and they're so focused on their teammates, on their companions to their left and right, that sometimes they forget about themselves. And we have to sit back and step back and make sure that we look at all of the veterans and make sure that they are connected to all of the benefits that they have earned, to include the chair. We have to make sure that you are connected to your benefits as well, Chair. Our weakness, and when I came before you a couple of years ago, some of our weaknesses were related to funding challenges. I'm happy to say that we've closed some of those gaps by working hand in hand with the Department of Human Services, the Health Authority, and other organizations such as Washoe County and soon to be Clark County, if they approve our grant request, to actually augment our funding streams, which you'll see on the 2 slides from now, to ensure that we are also using grant funding. A success story is Washoe County Commissioner came to us and said, hey, we've got some funding available. She'd like to use her discretionary funding, Councilwoman Andriola, and some ARPA money that they had available to hire 2 contracted veteran service officers to place in Washoe County to do work with their homeless program and other programs. That program has been very successful. We have 2 veteran service officers that are employees of the Nevada Department of Veteran Services through a contract, and they are working directly for Washoe County to connect other veterans with their benefits in 2 additional locations. We have been contacted by the City of Laughlin and several other organizations to work under a similar model, which will help us get more veteran service officers out there into the community. That talks to the utilization of public-private partnerships. Again, we are working with all of our nonprofits to make sure that we have a stronger voice together, so that when you hear from the veterans community, you are hearing from all of it, government, local, nonprofit. It's hugely important. When you talk about the threats, it's the rising demand for our services. I mentioned that we have 1 veteran service officer to approximately 9,000 veterans in Nevada. And those are the veterans that we know about. Those are not the untethered veterans that have served but are not connected to any of their benefits. We're working to close that gap through more media, more social media, reaching out, more engagement, more outreach, and working with our community partners. The rising cost of healthcare is bringing more veterans to the table to ask how they can be connected to their VA benefits through the veterans medical portion, which also helps us connect them to their veterans benefits, to their disability benefits and things like that. You had under public comment, the aging veteran population does drive me back to talk a little bit about our need for those veterans homes. We absolutely, they are full, they are amazing places, and I would invite all of you, if you've not seen either of our veterans homes, please let us know. We'd love to walk you through the home or the cemetery. They're amazing places. Next slide. Kind of an overview of what we've got. We've already talked about the 3 skilled veterans skilled nursing facilities. That does include the one on Decatur that we are looking to build. We had 12 veteran service officer locations. In verification, we actually have 17 different locations where those veteran service officers are. These were the 3 budget accounts that we had at the last legislative session. As of now, we have requests in for 3 additional accounts. 1 for rural health transformation money from working with the Department of Human Services. We are the recipient of just over $2 million to help our rural veterans with things like adult day health care, with behavioral health, with opioid addiction and recovery, and women's health initiatives and issues, which the next time we meet, I will have more information on those exciting programs. We also have some things going on at the Northern Nevada Cemetery and Southern Nevada Cemetery that we will be requesting additional budget accounts for. And that, if you see up there, the general fund for state fiscal year 26 was just over $5.3 million. Again, in this last year, we have brought in just over $1.2 million in grant funding to support other programs such as opioid recovery. We are launching a program where we have navigators, which will help our veterans connect with their benefits. Next slide. This is where this is overall in the 26, 27 fiscal years. This is where our money comes from. Just over $46 million comes from the VA per diem and the other sources of income for the Southern Nevada home. 27 million from the Northern Nevada home. These are, and you can see that our resources are much less from the Northern or from the general fund as they are from our partnerships with the VA and the way we bring in other revenue. Next slide. The next slides really just go into greater detail about each of our facilities. The Southern Nevada Veterans Home, which I had an excellent opportunity to walk through yesterday and visit with our veterans. It's a beautiful building. It's tired. It needs some love. Just over 25 years old, but I'll tell you, it's filled with a lot of caring people and a lot of compassion. And those veterans are always there to tell you a story. Next slide. The Sparks Home. Like I said before, we have a waiting list that hovers between 45 and 48. It is a 98-bed facility. We would like to expand that to a 120-bed facility. There is land around and the space is available. It's just launching the planning and asking for those planning dollars. Our Veterans Memorial Cemeteries, I mentioned the committal building, and again, thank you. That committal building will make a difference to the way that we can provide our services to our veterans. And again, I mentioned that the Boulder City Cemetery is the second most active cemetery in the country. There are days that those gentlemen do in excess of 6 to 7 services in a single day. And I would ask and just remind that they are not just grounds workers. They are the ones holding the hands of our heroes families as they lay their loved ones to rest. So you'll hear a little bit more about that when we come back and we start talking in the legislative session about budget and some of the things that go with it. The next thing is our veteran advocacy and support team. We have over 1,200 trained veteran advocates that we use. Those are volunteers that are within the community all over. But we're doing a little bit more in this area. I mentioned the grant funding that we've seen a couple different times. We are working to create and partner with some of our community partners and create a navigator system or a pathfinder, which would be paid individuals that will be more like a concierge service to call our veterans to reach out and say, hey, have you been connected to your benefits and what can we do to help you? Have you applied for your VA home loan? What can we help you with this? And they will do the legwork in advance of those veterans being able to meet with their veteran service officer to get connected to their disability benefits. We have the ability to train them as veterans advocates and work with a couple of different organizations to make sure that they're trained fully in all the other social services that would be available to them as a veteran and other generous things that the state of Nevada offers. Here is a wrap up of our community outreach. These are the programs that you have seen multiple times from the Department of Veteran Services. We aren't trying to add new programs other than our advocacy program, and the advocacy program is designed to connect our veterans to the benefits that you see in front of you. In closing remarks, I will tell you it is a true honor to be the Director of Veteran Services and to continue my ability to serve after leaving the military. And Nevada is one of the most veteran-friendly states. And there's a lot that we do, but there's a lot more that we can do. And with your support, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Committee members, are there any questions? I believe we have one from Senator Cruz Crawford.
Thank you, Chair De Silva, and thank you for the presentation and all the work that you do across the state of Nevada. My father-in-law was one of the veterans that were buried this last fiscal year, and it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. I had a question. Did you say that there's one VSO per 9,000 veterans? Did I get that number correct, or can you clarify?
That is the ratio, Director Devine, for the record. That is the ratio if you take the number of accredited veteran service officers that we have and divide it by the population. That doesn't mean that every one of those 9,000 have connected with a veteran service officer, but yes.
Is there a follow-up question, Chair?
Yes.
Is
please.
there a Is there a recommended number in order to do this job with all the support that they need? Is there a national recommendation?
Thank you so much for that question, Director Devine, for the record. The recommendation is more in line with 1 to about 3,500 veterans, and it really depends on the number of active duty members that you receive annually and the influx of population, but 1 to 3,500 is a really good rule of thumb.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all your work, Director Devine.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee members? Seeing none from the committee, I do have a couple questions here. So first and foremost, thank you, Colonel, for your excellent and expansive presentation. I had one question. Actually, it's more of a comment and a question. I was at the symposium that we held this past weekend. What an awesome turn of veterans who turned out. You know, we had I think a list of issues identified that the Veterans Committee wants to bring to us, and I know that we've held other symposiums in Reno and Elko as well, I believe. So I just want to thank you for your work in coordinating these symposiums. And I wanted to ask you, Colonel, in regards to the UVLC, the United Veterans Legislative Council, for those committee members who don't know what the organization stands for and is about, if you could give us a brief explanation as to what the UVLC is and how it aids in the legislative process.
Director Devine, for the record. Yes, the UVLC is the United Veterans Legislative Committee. I always get it wrong. And actually, our president of the UVLC is up in the audience in Northern Nevada, as well as a couple members, and a couple of members here behind me. What they do is, thank you for mentioning what we've done across the state. We've had 3 legislative symposium, one in Elko, our first ever in Elko, where we had about 75 members of the community and veterans come out to give us their suggestions of what they'd like to see changed, both federally, nationally, and within the state. And then we had just over 130 in Reno, and I think the count in Las Vegas was more like 150 to 160. So what we'll do is, after all the conversation, we will roll all of that up, and you will each receive the report of what the recommendations were from those legislative symposia. We will also turn that over to the UVLC. They will kind of churn through it and take a look and be knocking on your doors to see if they can find some interest in sponsoring some of those changes. And we've had similar outcomes in the last 2 symposia, maybe even last 3. The accreditation of our veteran service officers is very near and dear to our veterans' heart. So they want to talk a lot about making sure that there is a standard of professionalism among the veteran service officers that help our veterans with their claims. And the UVLC is very active in digging through all of that and providing the research and support to all of you as lawmakers.
Thank you, Colonel. And my second question is regarding, you mentioned that one of the weaknesses, was the utilization of public-private partnerships. I was wondering if you could just go into a little bit more detail into how the NDVS can actually better those relationships or expand those relationships. Thank you.
Director Devine, for the record. Thank you, Chair. That you're hitting all the ones that are near and dear to my heart. You as lawmakers have seen fit to provide the Nevada Department of Veteran Services with 8 different gift accounts that support our homes, that support our all kinds of different programs across the department. I think we can do a better job of talking to our very generous community and seeing what we can do to partner together to support and elevate our veteran service organizations. My vision would be that the money that we raise through our gift accounts or through our partnerships with nonprofit organizations is not simply to augment the Department of Veteran Services, but to elevate everyone that is already working in the community in those specific areas. So I talked a little bit about grant funding. The philanthropic dollars that we would raise, I would say, would be the same way. If there's somebody already in the space, a nonprofit that is already in the space of veteran behavioral health, behavioral health, military sexual trauma, any of those things, I wouldn't be advocating that the department stand up a new branch or a new staffing section to get into that business. I would be advocating that we elevate the people that are already there through a series of grants and other financial support to make sure that we are in no way in competition with our nonprofit partners. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Director. Committee members, are there any final questions? Edgeworth.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your service. It is a beautiful cemetery. My parents are there. It is lovely. There's nothing to cover you. It needs shade. It's very, very oppressively hot. My question is, as a physician, I go out and do a lot of community outreach, and I run across a tragic number of veterans who are experiencing homelessness. And I know that we're doing a lot more to try to get them into the system, get them transitional housing at US Vets and things like that. Can you tell me about what's being done or how one could contact the VA for people, maybe somebody who urgently needs to go and get into medical services and things like that?
Thank you so much for your question, Director Devine. For the record, I don't have it off the top of my head, but the VA here in Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada has a number that you can call where they will send out a crisis team, and they will help that person and determine their eligibility for placement. There are a couple of other organizations. US Vets is doing a great job, by the way. We have toured their facility. They are constantly growing, and just since I'm a little bit of a storyteller, we visited last month, and as we were in the elevator, getting ready to get into the elevator, there was a veteran that lives on the top floor of US Vets, and he was so excited to tell us that he has been lived in their transitional housing for 19 years. And he was so excited to have come through their program. And the biggest thing that thrilled him is that he was going to walk over to 7-Eleven and get a $3 pizza, because on that day they made fresh pizzas for $3 and he could eat for 2 days. And he was so excited. So as we were touring the facility, we come back and we meet up with him at the elevator, and we're riding up with him. And he looked at myself, the staff, and said, "You know, I got my pizza. Should we go out and share it?" And it's like, it was so heartwarming that what US Vets has provided him, that $3 pizza was the highlight of his day, that he was willing to share with all of us, and that he could say nothing but great things about the services that US Vets had provided. So we have multiple organizations like that. So to answer your question, the challenge we have, the VA will triage, but they don't triage on weekends. So we're working with them to see what we can do to get better services on the weekends. And then there's multiple other organizations that are beginning to contact us about transition housing to make sure that those 650 that we know about, we don't have those any longer. As well as, and Maria is sitting behind me, she's our homeless rep. It takes 3 to 5 contacts with any homeless person to get them to tell you if they're a vet or not. So it's making sure that we're there repeatedly and that it's the same face and the consistent face to talk to them. And our partnerships with Metro are really helping out in that area.
Thank you very much for your answer. And please feel free to reach out to me. I would really like to know more information about that. I come across quite a few veterans out in the wilderness. Thank you.
With that said, I think we're good. Thank you, Director Devine, for your presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your support of our veterans.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which will be a presentation from Fred Wager and the congressionally recognized VSOs. Our presenters will be Fred Wager, Veteran Legislative Liaison, Disabled American Vets, Department of Nevada, and we'll also have representatives from the congressionally chartered veteran service organizations. And when you're ready, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the Senior Veterans and Adults with Disabilities Interim Committee. It's a mouthful. Before I begin our presentation, I just want to say something about the previous presentation. I have to commend Director Devine on how much she has moved the department forward and how many programs she's instituted. And if you can do anything to assist her, I would ask you to do so. We fully support her. She's fantastic. So my name is Fred Wagar, W-A-G-A-R, and I am a veterans advocate for disabled American veterans and the veterans of foreign wars. We appreciate the invitation. Somebody owes $5. Sorry, that's a post-scope. We appreciate the invitation to have a few of our organizations come and speak to you regarding what we are doing in our communities. We were to have 6 organizations represented today. Unfortunately, the president of Women Veterans of Nevada, Cindy Edmondson, contacted me this morning and was called to be with a veteran who is facing imminent death today at the VA hospital and will not be able to attend. Our thoughts are with her and the veteran, and we appreciate her caring for a veteran who soon will no longer be with us. So she will not be here, but she's in our thoughts. As you can see, we have 5 other speakers, and we know that we are limited on time to present the important programs that these organizations perform in our communities. So I will move forward with their comments. At this time, we will start with our first speaker, who is the commander of the American Legion. Commander?
Thank you, Fred. Chairman De Silva, Assembly members, thank you so much on behalf of the 5,400 plus American Legionnaires in the state of Nevada. We work very, very hard every single day with not only Director Devine, our other nonprofit organizations, VFW, DAV, ELKS, Moose, you name it, we partner with every organization. The American Legion, 4 pillars, veterans and rehabilitation. And part of that is over 22 veterans commit suicide daily. That's nationwide. That's 22 too many. So it becomes imperative that you consider all programs that support our veterans. Part of those 4 pillars is children and youth. We donate hundreds of thousands of dollars and time to the youth in our communities. Part of that is Boys State, Girls State, Oratorical. All of these programs provide, whether it's someone who is mentoring for a single parent household, maybe it's going out and providing food for a household that can't quite make things meet their ends. We also go to schools, which is part of Americanism. We teach about our flag, what it means to be an American, how important our Constitution is to our youth. And last but not least, we have national security. Just like you, we write resolutions that affect our veterans and their families. So it becomes imperative that our communities support our veterans just like we support our communities. Now, we don't just reach out to veterans. I also work with whatever civilians might need help in a community. And all my fellow Legionnaires are more than willing to reach out a hand to help someone in need. So I hope that you listen to each of us that speak today and understand that we have to work as partners together to make sure we all benefit. Thank you.
Fred Wagar for the record. Our next speaker is Commander of the Disabled American Veterans.
Good afternoon, committee. John Way, Jon-W-A-Y, Commander of the DAV, Disabled American Veterans. The DAV itself was founded on September 25th, 1920 in Cincinnati, Ohio by Judge Robert S. Marks, a World War I veteran. It was created to support veterans that were being neglected. It was chartered by Congress in 1932, strengthened its mission to empower disabled veterans to live with high-quality lives, respect, and dignity. The DAV Department of Nevada was established in 1948. We currently have roughly 7,600 members. We have chapters in Reno, Carson City, Henderson, Pahrump, Mesquite, and Las Vegas. The DAV van system, you've probably seen the vans driving around with the DAV logo on the side of the vehicles there. Both north and south, we assist approximately 1,600 veterans to get to their VA appointments monthly. These vans are purchased by the DAV, and then transferred to the VA for maintenance on that. We have service officers, certified service officers, both in Reno, at the Reno Hospital, and the North Las Vegas Hospital. These are funded positions paid by the DAV. We also have service officers, again, certified in Henderson, Pahrump, and Mesquite. Myself, as the commander, I receive calls from the DAV National weekly of veterans that need assistance. They contact me, I turn around, and I have folks both in Reno and Las Vegas that I contact to go out and check on those veterans that need assistance. An example would be recently I had a veteran that her spouse passed away, so she contacted National contacted me. I went over and assisted her. She had a couple of wheelchairs, the extremely expensive ones the VA gives out. Didn't know what to do with them, so we took them, and then we give them to other veterans that don't have access to get that kind of equipment from the VA. VA will not take that stuff back, so we just reutilize it to make sure that the veteran that needs it has that service. Received a call, a veteran that needed yard work. Went over there. This was 2 weekends ago. When I got there, I was anticipating a small yard. Well, she has about a half acre, and it needed a lot more work, so we did what we could, but in the end, she again advised to get assistance to get that taken care of. Other things that we do, DAV supports benefit advocacy, transportation, employment and transition, outreach and relief, volunteering disabled veterans outreach program, DVOP, adaptive sports programs such as free activities like adequate therapy, fishing and golf in Nevada, safe at home program, modifications for home accessibility, ramps, grab bars, and the Adopt Dental program. We have, again, the chapters in both Las Vegas and Henderson do a lot of outreach as far as funding, helping veterans, the homeless veterans, and we donate usually monthly to the VA hospital VSO program up there. So, thank you for your time, and thank you.
Fred Wager, for the record. Our next speaker is Legislative Director of the Paralyzed Veterans of America. Director.
Chair De Silva, Assembly members. My name is Mark. My name is Mark Christensen. Can everybody hear me? Excellent. I am the Advocacy and Legislative Director for the state of Nevada on all issues associated with federal, state, and local for legislative initiatives as well as advocacy. Paralyzed Veterans of America was founded in 1946 by a group of World War II service members who returned from World War II with spinal cord injuries and faced a world largely unequipped and not accessible for them. These veterans established the organization to secure better medical care, research, civil rights for themselves and other peoples with disabilities. While founded in 1946, the organization was later officially granted congressional charter on 12 August 1971. A little bit of time frame lapse. As of today, Las Vegas has 48 paralyzed veterans. That does not include the individuals that we are getting in from other states, which is increasing in numbers daily. The programs at the Paralyzed Veterans of America Nevada chapter is proud to provide a variety of programs that helps enrich and benefit the lives of our veteran members throughout the state, especially here because our veterans in Las Vegas make up the majority of the paralyzed veterans throughout the state. These programs include sports and recreation, advocacy and legislation assistance, outreach, healthcare, benefit and support, advocate for adaptive sports and recreation, of which I am proud to say every single one of our veterans that participated in the wheelchair games medaled in multiple disciplines while we were back there. Even this old man. And most importantly, research and education. Things are evolving rapidly in that field, and we are proud to identify that the VA here in our city, Southern Nevada, is leading the charge on a lot of these new initiatives that are coming out and new researches that are being availed to paralyzed veterans of America. Everything that we push forward as legislation benefits all the individuals in the United States under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we thank you for helping us move that forward. Appreciate your time.
Fred Wagger, for the record. Our next speaker is the commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Commander.
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva and committee members. For the record, I am Candace Lopez, Department of Nevada State Commander for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I am here to provide a committee of awareness and of the activities of my organization. The VFW is the nation's oldest major veteran service organization advocating for those who have served overseas, being formally chartered by Congress on May 28, 1936. Nationally, the VFW has over 1 million members worldwide. That's fully worldwide. With Nevada having, as of today, Monday, 6,755 members. And that is not including our auxiliary members. Programs included are community service, Patriots Pen, safety, youth activities, citizen education, voice of democracy, public service awards, teacher awards, buddy poppies, service officer programs, and VA voluntary service. That's just some of them. Today I am here as a commander of this wonderful state on behalf of the veterans in the Department of Nevada advocating against what we call claim sharks. Advocacy is one of our #1 priorities. Veterans should not have to pay for future benefits. Active duty service members should not have to pay for claims assistance prior to transition. And no one who prepares claims should have any financial affiliation with any medical examiner that could possibly affect the outcome of a claim. For-profit consultants across the country make millions each year by charging military veterans for help in filing in their disability claims with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. The practice exists in a legal loophole. It's illegal under federal law for companies that aren't accredited by the VA to charge veterans fees for helping file their disability claims. But there's no criminal penalty for breaking the law, and many consultants contend that the service they provide aren't explicitly forbidden. For example, a new veteran approved for 100% disability receives about $3,800 a month from the VA. For help filing that claim, a consulting company might charge a one-time fee of $19,000. So all that back pay that they're going to be receiving, they're going to take that $19,000 away from that deserving veteran. In some cases, consultants can pocket as much as $30,000 through tactics such as holding onto a claim for months before filing it. Currently, there are 9 states that have laws prohibiting charging fees that are not allowed by federal law and have various degrees of penalties for violating its state law. California has recently become one of them as well. These claim sharks are telling our community that all they want is a path certification despite one existing. We also ask that they be required through legislation that they are held to the same standard all of those who help veterans through the disability claim process have to go through. Of all of us in the organizations here behind me that have to go through that. In closing, all we're asking is for these organizations and companies that assist with initial, we're just asking for initial. We understand that the appeal and the secondary part, you can get compensation for. The initial part, that they are accredited with the Veterans Administration. We are asking for your support in finding the best possible outcomes for our veterans, military, and their family. Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you for your time.
Fred Wager for the record. Our next speaker is State Council Secretary of the Vietnam Veterans of America. Secretary.
Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak here on behalf of Vietnam veterans here in the state of Nevada. My name is Neil Johnson. I have been active for the last 10 years out here. I didn't know anything about the Vietnam veterans until I moved out in this area. Only to find out that they're a larger organization than I thought. They started out as a council as Vietnam veterans, and later on they kind of changed their direction and just changed the name as well to Vietnam Veterans of America, a group that was solely supporting Vietnam veterans. As you know, a lot of us came home, had a poor reception, and we wanted a group that these Vietnam veterans could go to that understood their situation. In '82, we became active with the pursuit of the Vietnam Veteran Monument that we have today. And in '86, because of our hard efforts and work, we was granted a congressional direction, our charter. And today we're depleting because we're aging out. But we still have 93,500 members. We have another 11,500 auxiliary, over 600 chapters throughout the nation. We also cover Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Philippines. We do have, we currently have in the state of Nevada about 1,400 and another 200 in auxiliary. We work diligently with our government relationships to try and keep legislative aware of what our needs are. We traditionally in the past have done a lot of lobbying. Especially up in the Capitol, our headquarters is located in Silver Springs. So we're real close to where all the legislators meet on a regular basis, and we make ourselves visible. We're very ambitious on our agendas. We like to work with our legislators. They have been, especially out here, extremely open to listen to what our needs are. This last Saturday was a good example, even though some of you weren't all there, but there was a few of you that were, and we're happy that the word's getting out. Additional steps that we have done is we work diligently with Agent Orange. I mean, we're one of the first groups that put out a book for self help on what to do, who to contact, and where to go. We were also very active with engaging with the VA's vet centers. We have a couple of PhDs that are full-time that work constantly on new things that are always coming up that seem to be more and more helpful. So where we were 10 years ago and where we are today, we cover a lot more, not realizing just how subtle things impact your PTSD as much as some of the major items. We are real active with a lot of programs that work with our community. We have a lot of people that work with our treatment courts, mentoring them, helping them become good, productive citizens in our community. We also work, we have a wheelchair program. We pick them up, we repair them, we redistribute them to people, not just Vietnam vets, but any veteran. And if there's families in need, we have an abundance of chairs that we're more than willing to help out our less fortunate senior adults. We work, as it's identified, closely with the cemetery, and we have DAV and VVA, I happen to be commander for both of them. We, with the VVA, are there every Thursday for unaccompanied. We do about 7 veterans every week that have no family. We represent them. We make sure they get full honors. We escort them out to their final resting point. We put a flag and we put a flower and make sure that, that they get full service even though they have no family there. We are their second family. DAV is even a little more, and the same people support this group. They provide anybody who wants full honors. So all you have to do is retire honorably, and the family request, we come out and provide it. We also do a lot of other programs where we have a good advocacy. We work with Veterans Voice that support our programs so that we can do a lot of things both electronically as well as in person. And we appreciate all the support that this board here can provide us veterans. And I thank you for the time to speak in front of you.
Fred Wager for the record. As I noted earlier, our next speaker was going to be President Cindy Edmondson from the Women Veterans of Nevada. However, with her being by a dying veteran's side, I will simply make a few comments that she may have made had she been here. I do want to talk about the Women Veterans of Nevada. They've been around a little longer than I thought, 1986, so they've been around for a while. And it was formed after an initial gathering of female veterans during the first Women Veterans Week in the fall of '85. So we appreciate them being around. They are a 501c19 organization. And I want to talk about their activities primarily because I see them out in the communities and they're always doing some great service, not only to women veterans, but to veterans throughout the community. So volunteering, visiting nursing homes, which is a big issue. If you haven't been to the veterans home in Boulder City, or if you're up north and haven't been to the one in Sparks, I highly encourage you to do stop by and see what Director Devine's doing with those 2 sites. They provide burial honors, as he just mentioned. The Women Veterans of Nevada assist in the unaccompanied interments on Thursday mornings. The WVON provides the folding of the flag if the military is not there. They provide she reads what the folds mean and how important that is, and plays the bugle for those that don't have military there. So we really appreciate that. They bring together women of all branches, of all ages, and it's really fun to watch them. They also take inactive reserve and active duty to share and assist comrades within the community. So they do a great job, and I just wanted to point that out before we go on. We've talked about the organizations that are here. Director Devine mentioned a few of the others that are out there, and I just wanted to take a minute to recognize some of the others, and I know we're going to miss some, but we've got Catholic War Veterans doing claims here in the Valley. Fleet Reserve Association is involved here. Henderson Service Officer, another claims office. Military Order of the Purple Heart, I saw a representative here today. The Marine Corps League is very involved in Vegas, and the Montfort Point Marine Association, the Association of the United States Army, who just got to get that in there, and Military Officers Association of America. So that's just a few, and I know I've probably missed some, but many organizations out there working for the veterans, and they're working every day. They're doing things in the community that really make a difference for our veterans, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Wouldn't be here if we didn't want to make some legislative requests, so I'd like to talk about those. I'm going to start with the license plates. It was mentioned, Director Devine mentioned that we had the symposia in Elko, Reno, and Vegas. Great turnouts. She did a great job of getting the word out. And so We had people turn out, and the veterans actually get to come up to the mic, grab a mic, and tell what they want you all to do this year or this next year in the session for veterans. And I wanted to mention license plates. There was, we want to have VSO affiliation. So maybe they want, I'll take my own for DAV or VFW or American Legion or whatever organization they belong to. They'd like to have that capability of putting that on a license plate, or campaign ribbons that they earned, put that on there, or ERA, be recognized with your license plate that you served in Vietnam, Gulf War, OEF, OIF, etc. Those different eras. Gold Star families was mentioned already in the previous comments prior to the session or the opening session. Free access to state parks and recreation. Again, what Comrade Sousa stated earlier, these are people who have lost their loved ones, their soldier, their Marine, their sailor in combat and never came home. And the least we can do is let them go to the state parks, recreation areas free of charge. So that's was very popular at the symposium that we just had. Support and expand veteran treatment court. I'm sure you all know about the veterans treatment courts. We've got them in Henderson and North Las Vegas, Reno. But there's that possibility of getting them out to places like Elko or some of the other rural communities. It helps the veterans who have gotten into some kind of trouble, but not so bad that they can't go through the program. And that program has been so successful. One of the big ones was employment for our veterans. So expanding the work opportunity tax credits for our businesses to incentivize the hiring of veterans. And then including programs like the peer-to-peer mentor and veteran hiring program. Those were actually instituted by swipe of a pen. What's that? Thank you. Executive order. I'm losing it here. Executive order first by Governor Sandoval, then by Governor Sisolak, now by Governor Lombardo. And it's just time to get it into law and it can be done so we don't have to worry about a governor coming along and not signing an executive order. So that's the whole reason for bringing that up. Get those two programs somehow into the law, no matter how it looks. The veterans love those programs. And then the last one I'll talk about was brought up by the commander of the VFW, and it was brought out in questions here today, but that's ensuring anyone assisting veterans with VA claims be accredited. That's all we're asking. We're not trying to shut them down. We're not trying to, we're just saying become accredited, become legal. The 38 USC and 38 CFR state specifically you have to be accredited if you're doing this. So I will tell you that in my mind, doctors have to have a medical degree from an accredited institution. Lawyers have to graduate from an ABA accredited law school. School administrators, they require a master degree in education administration from an accredited university or college. Teachers have to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. Our veteran service officers who are working legally here in the state are absolutely accredited by the Office of the General Counsel of the VA. And what's that take? Not training. However, if you've been doing it for a while, really it's not that hard. Passing an examination by the VA. So again, if you're already helping veterans, we had an individual in Henderson who they say it takes too much time and it's expensive. First of all, the examination's free, just so you know. And this gentleman got 2 days from the time he took the exam until he was accredited. And so it doesn't take a lot of time or money. And it makes anybody who does this adhere to ethical standards. And that's what we're talking about, ethics. And ensuring the services are provided for free. And that's what it's all about. Don't take money out of our veterans' pockets. Some of the things that were stated during the last session, I want to address here because we don't live in Carson City. and we can't afford to be there every day and coming to your offices and persuading you or telling you, hey, that was a wrong statement, so here's the correction. VSOs are a bunch of old guys. I got a couple of commanders back here probably take a little issue with that.
Yeah, I don't.
And so, you know, you got Commander Pam Walker, Commander Candace Lopez, and then Commander John Way, Secretary Johnson, Legislative Liaison Mark Christensen, and President Edmondson. If she was here, you would see she's not an old guy either. And so I just want to point this out because when you try to use either gender or age to split people up, that's just, it's just saying you don't have another argument. And so if you looked at our membership, in fact, we've got some members right here in the front row from VFW who are leaders in this organization, and they're not old. I may be the oldest one among the group, I'm not sure. But anyway, and then they said, oh, we got to give them choice. We're all for choice. You want to give them choice? Let's do choice. But let's make it choice between this legal entity and this legal entity, not somebody who refuses to follow federal law. The sponsor used the predator. That came out this year. The sponsor of the bill did not use the predator. Never has, never will. But that's what came out, and it was said by their lobbyist. No. So I just want to say that. And then the last thing, the predators say two things. They do it faster and they do it better. I want to talk about faster. Only the VA can determine how fast a claim is going to go. Only the VA. And so I looked it up on Thursday to see how long it was taking a claim to do. Average claim, and I know the director talked about this as well. The average claim right now is between 80 to 85 days. That's not a long wait. Are there claims that take longer? Yeah. Things that get complicated? Yes. But on average, 80 to 85 days. When I worked for the VA a long time ago, it was 3 years. 3 years. That was a wait time. So it's not faster. The VA is the one that decides that. And they do it better. So let me give you some numbers directly from the Veterans Benefits Administration. An accredited representative, if a veteran uses an accredited representative, on average, $2,221 a month is what he'll get through an accredited, from the VA, because of an accredited representative. Unrepresentative veterans, which includes predators, $1,928 a month. So if they're doing it better, how come that's $300 less? This is from the Internal Veterans Benefits Administration data. So another argument that just doesn't work. I've also heard legislators say, well, we've been told you're shutting down a business and we're going to go after you. You're not shutting down a business. You're getting them accredited so they do it legal. It's absolutely untrue that we're trying to shut them down. Absolutely. We need more people doing it. You heard the numbers from the director, 1 for every 9,000. I'd love to get that down to 1 to 3,500, like it should be. But we want to welcome anybody who wants to assist veterans. Absolutely. As long as they do it legally under current law. And they were asked in a hearing in Washington, D.C. before a subcommittee of the VA, how come you're not accredited? Because we want you to change the law to do it our way. Instead of, yes, we'll follow the law. No, we won't do it until. And the reason they continue to do it is because the federal government in 2006 took away the financial penalties. And so there's nothing to lose doing it their way. That's why we're pushing the states to say, hey, let's do it right. And it was mentioned how many states. There was one state that passed a bill supporting the predator, and that was quickly thrown out in district court down in Louisiana. And then becoming accredited is a long process and expensive. I talked about that. That's absolutely false. It is free. And last year we had that individual that did it in 2 days. To me, that's not long or expensive. And finally, these predators use veterans, and this is important. veterans' personal information, claim number, social security number, and they put it in their system. And there's an automatic system that gets into the VA's automatic system. And every month or so, it clicks and uses that personal information as if they were the veteran, which is illegal. And they do that, and if it catches that there's an increase in the compensation, the veteran will get a bill for their 5 times the amount of increase. It's just, for me, you know, I grew up, my mother was really strict. I won't tell you how much, but if I'd been caught, and I know it's supposed to be false statements or what, to my mother, it's a lie. If I'd been caught lying, I'd have paid for it. So please understand that they're using personal information, PII, to get their money from the veterans. And we're just asking that to help us stop that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our contact sheet that we've provided to you. And we want to make sure if you have any questions, whether it's about legislation or helping a vet. I've had calls from legislators throughout the time. Hey, I've got a veteran here and he needs help with, and we get them to the right spot and we don't charge you anything, I promise. So that is the end of our talk. And Chairperson De Silva and committee members, this concludes our presentation. We appreciate your time and we stand for any questions you may have. And if we need to bring up any of the commanders, we can do that again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wager. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Karras.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Fred. I do have a question for you just to clarify. Was it initial claims that are taking an average 80 to 90 days? And then in addition to that, what is the average if they're the first appeal?
Fred Wager for the record. Thank you for the question. First of all, yes, that was initial claims for 80 to 85 days on average. I do not have the number, but I will get it for the committee on the average time for the initial appeal. I will get that for the committee. Unless somebody has that. Everybody left. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Chair.
Further questions, committee members? Okay, I have a quick question here for you, Mr. Wager. So I know that these organizations, you know, these are congressionally chartered. They represent hundreds of thousands of veterans across the country. And there's a structure to it, almost like a command and control structure, from national down to state, down to local. So I was wondering if you could kind of like explain how that relationship works, and specifically when it comes to legislative matters. I know that these organizations do a tremendous amount of work when it comes to social services, human services, as well as charitable services here in our country and our state and our communities. But I was wondering if you could just describe that relationship and that sort of structure that's in place.
Fred Wager for the record. Thank you for the question. I'll just use DAB as an example because that's who I'm most involved with right now for both national and state. I'm also involved with the state level with the VFW, but not as much with the national, sorry. So when we have the national organization that we answer to, we all have constitution bylaws. We have rules that we have to go by, whether you're national, state, or local. So when you have the national organization and we have a legislative committee or staff up there, they are working with Congress all the time. And they put out memos, they put out information about bills that are being sponsored on the federal level, and they get that out to us, and then we share it with our state and chapters. And so with the state, they are the middleman, and so they keep us in line, and we do answer to them. In fact, we have a department convention coming up here, and not this weekend, but the next weekend in Reno, and we'll be going up there, and we've already provided a written report from we call the position the the Benefits Protection Team Lead. How about legislative chair? That's basically what it is. And so provide a report on bills that we talked about, the information I gave out to the chapter members. We have a benefits protection team lead for each chapter as well. And so it just kind of flows back and forth. And I was very honored to be appointed this year by the National Commander to the National Interim Legislative Committee. And so sitting on that, you learn a little bit more on what's going on the national level as well. But it flows that way because of the rules that we have in place. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
It does. Thank you so much, Mr. Wager. Any other questions, committee members? I think we're good. Thank you. Thank you again for all the work that you do for our veterans. Thank you everybody for being here today. I think we should have more afternoon meetings. We had a great turnout, So thank you again for your presence. With that said, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which will be a presentation from representatives from the Nevada National Guard. So when you're ready, please begin. And quickly, to be clear, the presentation will be on the transition from active duty to civilian life and into the workforce. That will be the focus of the presentation today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, committee members. I am Lieutenant Colonel Eric Hapner, ERIC-HAPNER, Legislative Liaison to Major General D. Roger Waters, who is the Adjutant General for the Nevada National Guard. Major General Waters regrets that he isn't able to be here today. He is currently overseas, training with our international partners and strengthening allies. We have a presentation for you. I believe might be a little bit of user error on my end, but I'm going to go ahead with the presentation if that's okay, Chairman.
Please do. Go ahead.
I also want to take the time to thank Chair De Silva. I know yourself, Senator Cruz Crawford, and others have served our nation in uniform, and all of you continue to serve our state and nation in your current assignments on the committee, and we in the Guard are so tremendously thankful for that. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a special thank you to your committee staff, who has been fantastic and supportive in helping us be here today to brief you all. So I'm going to give a brief overview of your Nevada National Guard. Please don't hesitate to jump in as we go with any questions. Our mission, I'll start with, our mission is to provide citizen soldiers and airmen ready to fight our nation's wars, protect our country, strengthen our partners and allies, and respond to state emergencies. So what that means is that we in the National Guard, we're unique because as citizen soldiers, we serve both the state of Nevada and we have a federal mission to the Department of War. With that, our four main priorities are fighting and winning our nation's wars, defending our homeland from attacks from our adversaries, strengthening our partnerships and allies, which is exactly what General Waters is doing right now over in New Zealand, and then responding to state emergencies. And that's not just state emergencies here in the state of Nevada. We also support what we call our EMAC partners, which is our FEMA region partners, so California, Oregon, Utah, as needed. The Nevada National Guard is comprised of two main components, the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard. We have 4,700 total members, and the bulk of that force, about 70%, are in the Army National Guard. Units including aviation, infantry, signal, communications, and logistics. And then about 25% of our force is in the Air National Guard. the majority of them being in the 152nd Airlift Wing, which flies C-130s out of the Reno Tahoe International Airport and is actually currently deployed supporting Operation Epic Fury. About 75% of those 4,700 members of the National Guard are what we call traditional. Traditional meaning they put on the uniform and report to duty 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, and that's to train and maintain readiness. However, we've been, as time has gone on and decades of war on terror, I would say these days that 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer is the minimum that every member does, with many doing additional days each year to go to schools, to perform additional training, to maintain their readiness. Our National Guardsmen train at the same schools that the active duty goes to. We train side by side with the active duty when we're in those schools, and we are expected to maintain the same level of proficiency and meet the same standard in that whatever your military occupational specialty is that you've chosen. And then the other, so I said 75% of the 4,700 are what we call traditional members. The other 25% is our full-time force, largely administrative, medical, logistics, maintenance forces to help keep that 75% moving so that when they show up on a drill weekend, they're actually able to train on their equipment. Now, it looks like we have slides again. Thank you. All right, these are General Waters' focus areas. These are what he has asked his staff to focus on to make sure that our National Guard is ready. Starts there by taking care of people. People are the foundation of our readiness, and strong families are the foundation of our people. With people, when we take care of our people, we're able to drive readiness, we're able to foster and build cultures of excellence, and we're able to strengthen our profession. So I'll focus a lot on taking care of people, because you may ask, what does that mean, taking care of people? And it's a perfect segue into the main purpose of this presentation, which is to chat about the transition from active duty to National Guard. There's a whole host of benefits available to your Nevada National Guardsmen when they join the military, and specifically when they join the Guard. Some at the state level and others at the federal level. Now, the majority of our funding for equipment, for training, and these benefits comes from the federal level. I'll start with the state level first. The state benefits here in Nevada, we're extremely fortunate. You all in the Assembly and in the Senate have supported us through years of sessions. We have a tuition waiver and reimbursement for members of Nevada National Guard if they attend a Nevada public institution. Tax benefits, so things like reduction of property taxes for eligible veterans or a tax holiday on Nevada Day for members of the Nevada National Guard. And then just passed and enacted last session, death benefits to surviving members of Nevada Guardsmen who die while performing state active duty. And then at the federal level, there are, as you can imagine, a lot more resources available to Nevada Guardsmen. Things like TRICARE Reserve Select health insurance. So it's similar to what an active duty member gets as TRICARE. Operates a little bit more like a civilian PPO system where members pay a premium every month, and then there are co-pays depending upon where they get service. But by and large, the TRICARE Reserve Select health system beats what is available to most of those members in the civilian world. Life insurance is available to Guardsmen. VA home loans. They're eligible for federal retirement if they meet all the thresholds. And then, of course, educational benefits, things like the Montgomery GI Bill, federal tuition assistance, credentialing assistance. And then the last one that I'll touch on is USERRA, the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Act. As you can imagine, in active duty, when you deploy, that is your primary job. So there's not necessarily a hardship on the employer of the active duty when you deploy, nor expectations of reemployment upon your return. It's a very different story with the National Guard. Our guys and gals are civilians Monday through Friday, and they have a civilian job. When they deploy, it's often tough, especially disproportionately so on small businesses, if 10%, 20%, 30% of your workforce in a small business is now deployed for anywhere from 3 months to a year at a time. And it can be even more hard when that a small business hires someone to replace you, but then you return and USERRA provides a 5-year reemployment guarantee. Basically meaning that a civilian employer can't penalize you for performing military service for up to 5 years. Of course, 5 years is a long time, and it's difficult for small businesses to fill that gap of a service member who's been deployed. So I think that's a key point, a key stressor that is important for civilian employers to understand. Your large corporations typically do, and they have good HR departments who understand the reemployment rights of members. We often see their communication goes a long way in helping to talk to civilian employers prior to a soldier's deployment or an airman's deployment and let them know that these USERRA protections exist. And we encourage them, of course, to hire somebody to fill the gap created by that deployment. But we also encourage them to stay in touch with their member while their member is deployed. And then ideally rehire their member when their member comes back. The other scenario too is I think a lot of employers, especially in Nevada, understand the value of hiring a veteran as opposed to a non-veteran. It can be difficult sometimes for employers when they're looking at a prospective candidate who's a member of the National Guard, especially in times of high op tempo like we had in the War on Terror, when they didn't know if the person they were hiring was going to be there for an entire career or if they would get deployed. It obviously, of course, USERRA also prevents discrimination in the employment and the hiring of service members who are in the National Guard. But that's one of those pernicious types of discrimination that is oftentimes difficult to prove. Again, I think the vast majority of employers take the opportunity to hire a veteran and a member of the National Guard. But it can be difficult, especially if an employer doesn't know the National Guard well, doesn't understand why does my member have to be gone. Okay, I get it, they do 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, but they also now have to go to a school or they have to show up on a Friday before drill in order to get ready for drill. We have a fantastic organization, and we also have all the organizations that preceded me who help communicate that to our civilian employers here in the state. And then lastly, I want to chat about the organizational structure of our National Guard. So you'll see on this, we 24/7, 365, we report to the Governor of Nevada. You'll see the green blocks are the Army National Guard, the blue on the right are the Air National Guard, and the purple in the middle is what we call our Joint Staff. It's set up very similar in all 54 states and territories across the country, and it aligns generally with the Department of War's organization. What you see on here, the green organization, the green and the blue blocks down below the stars represent our 4 generals that we have in the Nevada National Guard. Those are what we call our deployable units, our deployable organizations. So all of this command structure is available to the governor should he need it for state emergencies or should he decide to send us to support any of our neighboring partners. And then additionally, those blue and green blocks that are kind of down below the stars, those are the deployable units that also get tapped by the federal government, the President, the Department of War, when activated federally to deploy. And that's part of our dual obligation to both the federal government and the state of Nevada. And then in closing here, this is our Adjutant General, Major General Waters, who looks forward to meeting all of you and seeing you all again when he returns. The tag we call him, the Adjutant General, is the Senior Military Officer of the Nevada National Guard, and he reports directly to the governor. Additionally, he coordinates with what we call National Guard Bureau, which is in D.C., and the Department of War to organize, train, and equip the Nevada National Guard. He's the one that goes to ensure that Nevada is receiving the resources that it needs to be always ready and always there. Thank you. And I'll take any questions if there are any. Chair.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? Senator Cruz Crawford.
I would just be remiss to say thank you for the shout out. I'm actually in training for the next 2 months, and I would like to thank my employer for having a job for me when I come back. But thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Eric Hapner, for the record. Thank you, Senator. I myself just got back from 6 weeks of training. We are extremely lucky to have yourself, the chair, the entire committee, people that understand the unique characteristics of serving in the National Guard. So thank you for your service, Senator.
Thank you. And we would be remiss to not mention that Senator Cruz Crawford is an officer in Nevada National Guard and is currently out training. And we also want to make sure that we keep all of our Nevada Guards men and women in our thoughts and prayers as they're serving all around the country, including General Waters, on the other side of the world, I believe in New Zealand. And I also got to give a shout out to Lieutenant Colonel Hapner. I think the last time that we met, you were a major. So congratulations on your promotion.
Yes, sir, Eric
And
Hapner, for
we
the
look
record.
forward to your continued service to the state of Nevada. And I had one question, if you may. So I know this is something that did come up during our UVLC symposium this past Sunday at the VA hospital, and that was a license reciprocity. Has there been any sort of conversation within the Guard itself about maybe working on connecting trained guardsmen and women now who have licenses in various different sort of professions and various different vocations to a licensing entity in the state of Nevada, and then maybe having some sort of reciprocity that we can, create, or if there's a legislative fix to some of those reciprocity issues.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for the question. Eric Hapner, for the record. We, the National Guard, so all 54 states and territories have a National Guard, and we have an organization called NAUGUS. It's the National Guard Association of the United States. It's headquartered in D.C., and it serves as the advocacy arm of the National Guard to advocate for issues exactly like that you just mentioned, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's developing slowly across the nation. There is some federal interest in applying it at the federal level. I think it runs into very compelling concerns about federalism and the ability of each state to decide who gets board certified, as a doctor, as a lawyer, as an esthetician in their state, based on the standards that they feel are best for the health, safety, and welfare of their citizens. We completely agree. It would be, a lot of states are on board, not just with the members themselves, but also with the members' spouses, so that if the member is forced to move, the spouse doesn't have to re-go through training or retake the bar exam or the medical boards. But absolutely, Chair, and I'd love to get you more information on that if that'd be okay.
Thank you, Colonel. Committee members, are there any more questions? Any further questions? Okay, looks like we have no further questions. Thank you again, Colonel, for your presentation, and congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you, sir. I've managed to fool the Army one more time. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Okay, yes. So we'll move on now to our next agenda item. And I believe this will be our last agenda item before public comment. And this is now a presentation from the Institutional Services, Support Services for Student Veterans. And I believe we have a representative from NSHE who will be presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair De Silva and committee. I'm Renee Davis, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs at NSHE, and I have here to my left, getting the presentation set up, Trina Caserto, Director of Policy, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation.
Okay. For the record, Tarina Caserto, Director of Policy, Nevada System of Higher Education. Thank you, Chair, for inviting us here today to provide an overview of the breadth of services that our 7 institutions offer to student veterans. Before I begin, I'd like to draw attention to where to find our, let's see here, there we go, where to find our annual veteran enrollment report as provided by NRS 396-5453. Annual reports can be found at our NSHE website simply by typing in Veterans Enrollment Report into our search bar. Our Veteran Enrollment Report will provide greater detail on institution-specific programs that are ongoing and new for the reporting year, whereas today's presentation will provide a 300,000-foot view across our system. I would not be able to adequately represent the services specific to each of our 7 institutions, but there are representatives here in the north and in the south that are on standby to answer any questions you might have regarding their specific institution services. The faculty staff of our institutions come together on each campus to meet the needs of their student veterans and families, forming a very tight community who build together the blocks for success in higher education. Student veterans are recognized across all institutions for their leadership, their exclusive experiences, and resilience in achieving great goals. That said, we know through literature, research, and everyday conversations that go on at each campus that veterans may face one or many challenges, such as transition out of the military and into civilian life and into higher education, financial hardships, mental well-being, and even health challenges. The services that I will describe today respond to those challenges and turn them into opportunities. The next few slides I'll go through fairly rapidly because they are contained, all the data here is contained in the Veteran Services or Veteran Enrollment Report for 24-25. A little over 7,800 veterans were identified either through their use of their VA or Veteran Educational Benefit or by self-identifying to the institution, and this is an unduplicated head count across the system. A little over 4,600 veterans received educational benefit payments through their federal education benefits. The gender distribution, 43.8% being female, and the average age overall for our veterans is 28.49 years. The next slide shows you our fall to spring retention for the 24-25 years, 83.8%. This is up 11 percentage points from 2022. 23. A little over 1,700 students completed a degree or certificate in this last year. These high numbers are attributed first and foremost to the resilience and dedication the student population has, along with the dedicated advising, early intervention programming to support the students' needs, which I will talk about in a moment. This slide shows you the enrollment by institution. These figures are unduplicated within the institution and only capture students whose veteran benefits were certified by an institution or who've self-identified as veterans on the admission application. But please make note that these figures are duplicated across the institutions as a student may enroll in one or more institutions in a given year. And here we have our top 15 fields of study for the 24-25 year. Top 3, as you can see, business management, marketing, and related support services, number 1, health professions and related programs, number 2, and computer and information systems and support services, number 3. Again, all this can be found in the 24-25 Veteran Enrollment Report. Aside from federal policy and VA benefits and federal benefits, the state of Nevada provides for in-state, for tuition purposes, for honorably discharged veterans, and for veterans and eligible family members that utilize their VA education benefits. There are 2 waivers that we offer for student veterans and under specific criteria, their child. The first is the Purple Heart fee waiver, both in NRS and Board of Regent policy, where there has been a total of 17 awarded in the last 4 years, and then the Medal of Honor fee waiver, which is provided by Board of Regent policy, and we have not yet had any awardees. Here you see a list specifically designated for student veterans and military-connected students. These centers and lounges function as anchors for benefit administration, peer connection, mental health, community partnerships, academic advising, community building. You can see each institution has either a lounge or a center space dedicated for our military and veteran students and families. Now, creating a foundation of support is an ongoing priority on many of our campuses, and this includes improved campus climate, advising quality, and consistency of veteran support practices. Some institutions offer training in small and large groups across campus. Other institutions focus more on operational cross-training and staff specialization rather than standalone training events. But the training content typically emphasizes veteran and military culture, suicide prevention and mental health awareness, and institutional best practices for engagement and advising. This slide includes most of the most widely used services during the student's journey through higher education, everything from orientation through to graduation. However, it's not always a linear process, nor necessarily consecutive steps. These services are offered each term, every year, and students may rotate in and out of services as they identify where they require assistance. So let's look at some of these more closely. Academic advising for student veterans is delivered through a combination of dedicated veteran service offices, specialized advisors, coordinated certification and degree planning functions, and proactive retention interventions. Collectively, these efforts are designed to ensure timely enrollment, benefit compliance, academic progress, and degree completion. Key themes among the institutions: dedicated advising capacity, employ advisors whose primary focus is military-connected students, ensuring subject matter expertise in both academics and VA compliance. Integrated degree planning and certification support occurs alongside advising, helping veterans avoid course selection that could delay graduation or jeopardize benefits. Each campus has a designated school certifying official to process and certify each student's education or vocational benefits for payment. These services in themselves are administratively complex as they navigate federal regulation and certify hundreds, if not thousands, of claims, depending on the institution's size, each semester. Some institutions use priority registration and early access to support effective academic planning and timely benefit processing. Proactive retention and at-risk outreach are interventions for students with low GPA or academic warnings, aligning veteran support with satisfactory academic progress policies. And credit for military experience, which emphasizes evaluation of joint service transcripts, awarding credit where appropriate for accelerated time to degree, and recognizing prior learning. Holistic transition and membership models, wherein peer mentoring and transition seminars complement traditional advising and support persistence. Then we have our continual support of mental health and well-being. Institutions provide a comprehensive range of mental health and mental well-being services to support student veterans as they transition from the military service to higher education. These services are critical to student success, given the unique challenges veterans may experience, including transition stress, isolation, trauma exposure, and elevated suicide risk. Mental health and well-being supports generally fall into 6 core areas, which you see there. Suicide prevention and early intervention. Several institutions implement targeted suicide prevention strategies, including peer-to-peer outreach programs, suicide prevention trainings, awareness campaigns, and proactive outreach to at-risk students. These efforts prioritize early identification of distress, reduction of stigma, and timely connection to appropriate resources. Multiple campuses partner directly with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to provide on-campus access to licensed clinical social workers, vocational rehabilitation counselors, and vet success on-campus staff. Institutions emphasize peer mentorship programs, veteran lounges and centers, and community building activities designed to reduce isolation and strengthen social connection. These supports serve as key protective factors for mental health and support successful transition to campus life. Trauma-informed and wellness-focused program includes events, courses, and workshops that promote resilience, self-advocacy, and holistic health, often in collaboration with federal, state, and community partners. Veteran-specific advising models, academic intervention meetings, and centralized retention services provide coordinated support that integrates academic performance with mental health and wellness considerations. These services help identify challenges early and connect students with counseling, disability services, and external supports when needed. And of course, emergency funds and food security provisions. Some campuses provide these food pantries and have set up emergency funds that student veterans may apply for. During academic year 24-25, institutions demonstrated a strong system-wide commitment to fostering veteran belonging, connection, and success through a broad range of events, through student organizations, peer programs, and community building initiatives. These efforts emphasize transition support, mental health and wellness, peer engagement, leadership development, and recognition of military service. Institutions hosted a wide array of community building and events, including, but not limited to, by any means, Veteran Week activities, graduation receptions, rec marches, memorial and remembrance events, athletic-related gatherings, and social activities designed to reconnect veterans with a sense of camaraderie. Several campuses embedded veteran-focused programming with campus-wide events to promote integration while preserving the veteran-centered spaces and traditions. All of this is possible through federal, state, and community partnerships. What you see before you is not a comprehensive list by any means, but a highlight of some of the more prominent relationships and partnerships that our campuses have. Institutions may maintain extensive federal, state, military, nonprofit, and community partnerships that significantly enhance the services available to student veterans and military-connected students. These partnerships essentially expand the institutional capacity, integrate external expertise, and ensure coordinated delivery of benefits, health services, career support, and transitional assistance. NSHE institutions leverage multiple VA-embedded programs, including Vet Success on Campus, Veterans Integration to Academic Leadership, Veterans Readiness and Employment, VA Work Study, and VA-funded clinical placements, to name a few. These partnerships improve the service continuity and reduce barriers to care. Some institutions partner with state agencies, such as the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, the Nevada Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, Job Connect, and Employ NV to deliver employment assistance, benefits navigation, and workforce development services tailored specifically to veterans and even their families. Several campuses collaborate directly with military installations to improve enrollment pipelines, but more importantly, to ensure accurate dissemination of education benefits information to active duty, guard, and reserve personnel. Institutions maintain strong relationships with nonprofit and community-based veteran service organizations, including Student Veterans of America, Veterans Guest House, Vietnam Veterans of America, Veterans of Foreign War, Disabled American Veterans, Work for Warriors, U.S. Vets, and so many others that we cannot name all today. These partnerships support anything from housing stability to peer engagement, wellness, employment, and advocacy beyond what campuses can provide independently. Select institutions engage private foundations, employers, and service providers to support staffing or emergency needs, graduation recognition, entrepreneurship initiatives, and career readiness. These partnerships offer flexible, supplemental resources that enhance institutional responsiveness to student veteran needs. And the last services I want to highlight today are career resources and professional development. Institutions provide a broad array of career and employment-related services designed to support student veterans' successful transition from military service to civilian careers. These efforts complement academic support and directly advance workforce readiness, economic mobility, and degree-to-career alignment. Institutions offer workshops, seminars, and individualized coaching focused on job research skills, federal employment pathways, resume development, graduate school preparation, and career planning, to name a few. Multiple institutions host or partner with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs programs, including Vet Success on Campus, which I mentioned before, and VRNE, the Veterans Readiness and Employment. These programs provide integrated education to employment support, benefits counseling, and vocational guidance aligned with career outcomes. Campuses also employ veterans through the VA Work Study Program or institutional student employment programs. These opportunities provide income, professional experience, professional skills training, and campus engagement while supporting persistence and skill development relevant to post-graduation employment. Institutions also maintain active partnerships with employers, alumni, nonprofit organizations, veteran organizations, and community agencies. These partnerships support job placement, internships, entrepreneurship activities, federal contracting awareness, and networking opportunities for student veterans and graduates. Select institutions provide targeted resources for veterans for the entrepreneurship and career pathway exploration, including access to business development materials, career fairs, transfer pathway programming, and transition to employment initiatives. So that concludes today's high-level overview. I want to recognize the many dedicated faculty and staff across the system who not only administer the VA education benefits, but create the culture and opportunities for student veterans' success. I thank you, Chair, for the time today to highlight our student veterans and the work our institutions do to support them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? I believe I have one here from Senator Cruz Crawford. Senator?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I had a question about the staffing ratios at the vet centers and what the recommendation is for that.
Tarina Caserdo for the record. Thank you for that question. I don't have with me the staffing ratios for the veteran centers at this time, so we would need to get back to you on that. Thank you.
And just a follow-up, Chair. I know that some of that is being paid for out of the school's general budget, so I'd love to get that number and a follow-up. Thank you.
Further questions, committee members? Okay, I had two questions. The first, kind of also bears with this the student body population there. So I think the report showed that we have over almost 8,000 student veterans matriculated in our NC schools, which is a pretty high number. Has there been any conversation as to how we can maybe expand this number? I know that we've been having conversations, as NC, as the different institutions here about revenue sources. And many of these veterans, all of these veterans, are connected to some resource, whether it's the GI Bill or other grant programs or funding mechanisms that can be utilized to bring in revenue into our institutions. So I just wanted to see if maybe you can give us a bird's eye, a very 30,000 foot sort of perspective on recruitment efforts for veterans into our NC institutions.
Tarina Caserdo for the record. Thank you so much for that question. But I think it would be best to defer to the institutions if they want to represent what their current activities are in that space. I think we have.
My name is Ross Bryant. I'm the Executive Director of UNLV's Military and Veterans Services Center, and I was trained by Tarina 14 years ago. So I can add some comments on a couple of the staffing issues. Everything you see in the slide, that's all very true of all the schools. Mr. Chairman, talking about the 8,000 vets, UNLV alone, I can talk about UNLV. We've grown by 900% from 2009 to now. We're serving over 2,300 people using benefit and about 2,700 of veterans on campus, ROTC, active duty, and TA at the base. The staffing recommended by the VA is not really realistic. They ask you to have 125 students per SCO. And when you think of a school certifying official, think of like income tax. It's like a CPA, obviously not highly qualified like a CPA. But now the requirements to certify someone's benefits, like back in the day when Ruben was a rebel vet, we used to certify him once, money would arrive, he'd go on and graduate. Now we are required to certify everybody twice, once within 30 days of school starting, and we can start 60 days before school. And you have to, and for me, that's 2,300 people with my team. And then you have to do the tuition 30 days after the drop ad, so there's less changes, which means by the time we get to tuition, we don't catch the student who's in the wrong class and you can't change it. And now he owes money and all those kinds of things. All of us, and I'm not the expert for the other schools, and I'd like to highlight NCHI, we have met with the chancellor, who's a Navy vet, used his benefit in the 90s. President Heavey is a big advocate for us, and we are probably staffed better than anyone. We bring in about $20 million between tuition and housing and stipends a semester to the school, and we have the most students of the 8,000. Our recommended of 125, that's never realistic. I average on total out of 8 employees. No one has a full-time CPA job. They have all the other jobs for the programming, orientation, the Ruck March, all those things, outreach, peer mentoring. But when you add up time spent certifying with Melissa, who's my certifying director, currently at the end of May, when I lose 2 privately funded positions, I'm down to about 3.7 SCOs handling 544 students per SCO, nowhere near 125. We're hoping to get to around 250. The other schools are similar and the same. And a couple of highlights, the other thing we're battling with all these new regulations, the VA, if you owed a debt for changing a class, the VA used to be the bounty hunter to go find you. Now the school is charged by the VA immediately, and then we're the bounty hunters through the institution to go find you and get you to pay back the school that paid your debt. So we have full-time people doing that and posting the payments. All of that takes time and effort, and not being political, there's also been massive cuts to the VA under this administration. To give you an idea, 30,000 VA employees cut. Some early retirement, some quit, some were dropped during probation during Doge. In this state, if you're a disabled vet, you have what's called VRE, vocational rehab education. You have to have a VA counselor who's trained with social work or counseling to be your counselor, along with your academic counselor to get your degree plan for your future employment. But that VRE counselor has to approve everything to pay your bill. There were 34 counselors in Vegas, 24 of them out. And now I have 200 of my 300 folks. They shipped all of their benefit, their packets for approval to Boise, Idaho. And Boise, during the semester last fall, told some of my vets, hey, I know you were approved to come to UNLV and your paperwork wasn't finished before your counselor resigned. Now we're waiting on Boise, and Boise said we're overwhelmed. You're going to have to wait till January. Sorry, I know you're in school. I know you don't get your housing, and we try to help as many people as possible. I'm telling you all these things because I'll brag a little bit. We used to be number 3 in the nation out of 600 schools with 30,000 students. Very proud of it. Had billboards all over the city. That's why we keep growing. We quit recruiting when we got short on staff during the NSHE hiring freeze after the COLA, raises and all those things that happened at Carson City. I know you guys lived all that. At our end, we just had a hiring freeze. So we quit recruiting, but you know what? We still grew because of our reputation. We are no longer top 10 because we couldn't make those 30-day increments now. So now we got an additional audit. Thrilled about that. And then just recently, the VA came to town and went to UNR, CSN, and us. We're the biggest 3 of the 8,000 students. We had an extra audit, and they met with our presidents to ask how come the vet centers don't have enough SCOs when the VA pays you guys $20 million a semester. So none of this is a surprise. President Heavey, our president, interim president, he had a meeting with us on the 9th of April, and he is committed to getting us 5 entry-level SCO positions, doubling my team so I can handle the volume of the students that we have. CSN, their president, I'm not speaking for them. They have taken another route to give them more staff, but some of those staffs are part-time doing other things. Internally at UNLV, we have an academic advising office at Nellis. That person up there is now part of my team, and that lady up there handles all tuition assistance for about 200 Air Force active duty people, and in her limited spare time, she does all the National Guard school certifying official. So everything you see on the screen that everyone has done over the years to try to help in that transition, I would highlight again, my school. We've had 5,000 graduates. One is Ruben De Silva and a couple other people like Elliot that was here before and others, and very proud of all of them. But we've also had 10 suicides. The last one was Super Bowl Sunday at UNLV for a veteran who was struggling. So we have these community wraparound services. It's not anyone's fault. The presidents have had many things on their plate, and we used to handle everything. We used to raise private money at UNLV, like $200,000 to bring on someone on an LOA with no benefits, which is not fair to that employee. And we would hold the gap because we were waiting on the next year. That next year turned into about 3 years. So now I think we're at the point with all the scrutiny that I think we're going to get the attention we need and the help. And President Heavey was adamant about helping us right away, and we're hopeful the other schools. I can't speak to the other schools, but I know UNR, CSN, Truckee Meadows, and UNLV, the 4 largest of the 7, are way higher than a recommended amount with all the new requirements. So that's a lot to unload. And I really appreciate NSHE and everything they've done with these reports that we send up every year. But it's sort of heart challenging when a VRE guy can't get a hold of a counselor now. And our VA vet success guy was tremendous. He just resigned because they're going to make him work overtime and drive from Mesquite and not be remote anymore. So he quit, and we're hoping to replace him. But things are just challenging times, but we're taking care of everybody. Everyone who comes through the door gets the services they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Actually, don't go nowhere. I need you here. We need you. I may be putting some folks on the spot here, but I also heard that we have representatives from UNR, TMCC, and WNC who are attending this meeting. I was wondering if you could just give us a very quick, maybe 2-minute sort of like bird's eye perspective as to what's going on campus, your specific campuses in regards to the services you're providing our veterans, our student veterans. Thank you.
Hello. For the record, my name is Felipe Gutierrez. I am the program director for Truckee Meadows Community College Veteran Services. So over at TMCC, we have about 500 students using VA education benefits. That's not including another 100 with the guard waiver and all the other veterans we help within the community that stop at our center to just get normal education and federal benefit guidance. We connect them to our federal partners. We don't actively recruit student veterans to stay away from the VA's regulation of targeting veterans. You are allowed to recruit student veterans, but we just mainly focus on recruiting all students.
Good evening. My name is Chai Glenn Cook, and I'm the Director of Veteran Services at UNR. We have about 859 students that we process VA educational benefits for, but when we incorporate also ROTC, the Guard, a lot of graduate students whose benefit is exhausted, and we also really include a lot of our staff and faculty that are veterans. We consider our numbers probably more like 1,400 veterans and service-connected students on campus. Like Felipe, we also do not specifically target and market for student veterans to stay in compliance with the VA GI Bill regulations for the money that we receive. I will be receiving my extra fund supervisory audit on Thursday from the VA, so we'll find out next week the results of my audit with the VA.
Mr. Bryan?
Well, to add, when I said we used to go do recruiting, we would actually go to veteran hiring or education fairs, not targeted. So like if Nellis had an education fair, we would attend that. If Creech had one, we would attend that. We also raise private money because 20,000 people are in Hawaii. And when you get out of Hawaii, you lose your housing and you're leaving Hawaii. So every year they would do that. I would raise private funds to have UNLV be at the combined all 5 services hiring fair. We quit doing that when we didn't have enough staff to get everyone paid. We also would go to Pendleton, a big Marine Corps base. I'm not sure if you went there, Ruben. And we also went down to Fort Irwin and 29 Palms. If you're a military person, no one stays at Fort Irwin or 29 Palms when you get out. You're in the middle of the desert for tank training. And we used to do the education fair, not targeted recruiting at those events. And so the SEO count is the real deal because of the required work to do all the stuff we all do. And I would also like to highlight every one of these schools, when Christmas break happens, as an example, we have to get 2,300 people paid by the 20th of January. Everyone else is on Christmas break. We rotate. We do all the great stuff to try to cover the mission. But it's about 21 work days during the Christmas break to get everything ready for January, not the whole summer. So there's just a lot of stress over 14 years to keep the team doing what we do. I'm proud of the fact I haven't lost any employees. They've all stayed on the team to do what we do. And we're looking forward to assistance in the future.
This is Chai Glenn Cook again. Just to clarify, we do have 2 full-time equivalents for the 859 students, so we are way out of compliance with that recommended 125 from the VA.
This is Felipe Gutierrez for the record. Again, we are at 1.5 full-time employees for the certifying official recommended ratio.
Good evening, J.W. Lazari, Executive Director, Student Services, Western Nevada College. Similar to my colleagues up here in the north, we don't actively recruit veterans, but instead recruit all students and share the services that we offer. We're at 0.5 FTE for our school certifying official, plus 1 FTE to provide support services. The biggest challenges we're seeing at WNC is the shift in the needs for veterans as post-COVID veterans, similar to other students, have shifted how they approach education. In the community college setting, we're not seeing students on campus like we used to. Students have shifted to a hybrid learning model, taking 1 class on campus to secure housing benefits and then doing many online. So that's shifting how we approach and support our veterans, which creates a challenge, especially for small community colleges that serve a wide geographical range. Thank you.
One reason that a lot of us have seen big jumps in the past few years is a result of the PAC Act that happened nationwide, in which a lot of veterans had their disability rating increased, and they got to 100%, which then opened the door to their children receiving then Chapter 35 DEA educational benefits. So a lot of our increase is actually for the family members that we're seeing as a result of the veterans' increase in their disability rating. And that's been a nationwide trend that we've all been seeing, that big jump. So that was kind of a extra bonus for all of us to be able to now serve more and more family members because of the PACT Act. But that has also increased our workload tremendously.
Yeah, at UNLV, we have 700 of those kids. Think of that, 700 kids with a 100% disabled parent. So we make sure they're taken care of as best we can.
Okay, any further questions, committee members? Okay, I think we should be good. Thank you again, for the work that you do in regards to supporting our student veterans. I know it is, it could be a grind. And I also want to give a special shout out to Ross Bryant, who was a mentor of mine when I was a young college student at UNLV. I believe we weren't even recognized like a office. We were just a club, the Student Veterans Organization. And through the leadership of Ross, we were able to become institutionalized, and now our official office at UNLV, as are the other offices here at the NG institution. So thank you all for the work that you do for student veterans, and thank you for the work that you did for me when I was a young college student there. What is that? 16 years ago. 16 years ago. Thank you. And with that said, we will now move to our next agenda item, and our final agenda item, which is public comment. As a reminder, we ask that public comments be kept to 2 minutes so everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. Is there anyone in Las Vegas who wishes to provide public comment? We'll start in Las Vegas first.
Good evening. I'm Levi Schultz, the Vice Chairman of the United Veterans Legislative Council. In our crowd up north, we have the rest of our UVLC. So our president, or our chairman, Chris Harvey, great leader, outstanding leader of the UVLC. I just wanted to raise brief awareness about who we are and what we do, and that we provide a legislative advocacy for all veterans, active duty, military family, and Guard across all of Nevada. So you'll be seeing our faces all around before legislative session and during. I also wanted to bring note to the uniform that I'm wearing today, which is for the National Montford Point Marines. In 1942, at the height of World War II, the United States Marine Corps took a step that would change its future. African-American men were finally allowed to enlist, training at Montford Point, North Carolina. These men, later known as the Montford Point Marines, faced two battles, one against the enemies of our nation abroad, and against the segregation and discrimination at home. They trained in separate facilities, endured unequal treatment, and yet answered every call with honor. Over 20,000 strong, they proved their skill and valor in theaters across the globe, helping to lay the foundation for the desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces under President Harry Truman. The National Montford Point Marine Association exists to preserve that legacy, ensure their sacrifices are not forgotten, and to support veterans and their families, and to remind this nation the progress is often forged by those willing to stand firm in the face of injustice. Their story is not just Marine Corps history, it's American history, and it's a legacy of perseverance that continues to inspire generations to serve with dignity, respect, and honor. As a matter of fact, we have a National Montford Point Marine, we have a Montford Point Marine original here in Nevada, in Southern Nevada. His name is Mr. Henry Jackson, and I encourage you all to meet him as well. So thank you all.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Kalkis. I'm an Army veteran who served in OIF and a member of the VFW and American Legion. I'm here to represent Veteran Benefits Guide. Since 2015, we have helped over 55,000 veterans navigate the often frustrating VA disability process. We are proud to be headquartered in Las Vegas, where we employ over 200 Nevadans, including veterans and their families, in living wage jobs dedicated to supporting our veteran community. In fact, our offices are just down the street. Let me be clear. Nevada veterans deserve transparency, strong consumer protections, and most importantly, they deserve options. As you heard today, there is only one VSO for every 9,000 veterans in our state and 7,000 open claims. There is clearly a need for more options, and to date, BBG has helped over 1,400 Nevada veterans. For too many veterans, the disability benefits process is far from simple. In fact, over 70% of the veterans we helped have used a service that was free, and they had unsuccessful results. The ability to decide who to work with is a constitutional right that must remain with the veteran. BBG welcomes the opportunity to work with you to create meaningful consumer protections to protect our community, hold bad actors accountable while allowing veterans to have a choice in how they pursue their disability benefits. We also encourage any legislator to come to our office and see the impactful work that we do for Nevada veterans every day. We stand ready to help strengthen these standards and ensure every veteran's voice is heard. Thank you.
Chair DeSilva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, Francisco Morales here representing Veteran Benefits Guide. I'm an attorney here in Vegas with Brownstein. I wasn't going to speak, but I wanted to just put something on the record that was mentioned earlier, and that's the two major federal cases involving this type of legislation. The biggest case that has been ongoing since 2023 is in New Jersey, the Third Circuit. The Third Circuit held that these types of policies that prohibit veterans from choosing who to get help from is a potential violation of the First Amendment. That the Fifth Circuit pushed back the case to the district court, and that is still ongoing. The case that was mentioned earlier from Louisiana, the Fifth Circuit, as was mentioned earlier, that case held via a permanent injunction that the federal government has occupied the entire space in this area. As was noted earlier, that legislation would have created a state pathway for accrediting these types of organizations like BBG. It's a bill that we supported, but the bill was struck down because of preemption. But preemption goes both ways. If we try to enact state legislation to do the opposite and outlaw and completely push out companies like BBG from Nevada, preemption would still apply there. So I would really encourage you to look at both cases so that we could make a sound legal decision before getting the state into more costly litigation, and take into account that there is ongoing litigation in the Third Circuit and the Fifth Circuit, both which protect the right of veterans to choose and be able to decide how best to pursue their claims. Thank you.
Chairman DeSilva, Dave McNeil, Judge Advocate, Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'd like to address some of what was just said. This is the disingenuousness with which the claim sharks are approaching this. As noted by Fred Wager earlier, they have a path towards certification. What you just heard was them saying that they don't want to follow the rules. They want an exception. And they're trying to obfuscate with legal machinations away from just doing what is right. Thank you.
Seeing nobody approach the dais in Las Vegas, we'll go to Carson City. Is there any public comment in Carson City?
Chairman DeSilva, again, David Souza, SOUSA for the record. For you and your committee members, as the president of the Nevada Veterans Memorial Plaza, which honors the 916 Nevadans that gave their sacrifice to this state in behalf of this nation, I encourage you all to come out to the Memorial Plaza, which is located at Sparks Marina, and see it for all its glory. I will give you a personal tour to show you all the Nevadans that are on there. Currently, I have just completed a thorough examination of the Nevada Fallen since 2001, and I came up with 57 names. I will give you those names once I've really, once more, I'm going to justify those names and make sure that they are correct in spelling and their date of death and where they died is correct. And I will present that to the Nevada Department of Veterans Services and all the veterans organizations so they can post it on their website so they can have that for future for any organization. So again, I open the invitation out for you guys to come visit the Nevada Veterans Memorial Plaza in Sparks, Nevada. Number 2, we talk about these predatory claim sharks. Claim sharks is a term that came from the Veterans of Foreign Wars in several different meetings. But one of the things that I want to let you know is that the Texas Supreme Court has determined that claim sharks do not have the authority to charge for claims, for first-time claims, according to the VA regulations. So the Department of Veteran Affairs accredits those claims officers, and if you're not a claims officer, you're not accredited through the VA, you are not allowed to charge first-time claims any funds. So I would have you guys look into that Texas Supreme Court law that told those claim sharks are not allowed to charge any fees or any collections to those. Thank you.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. For the record, Chairman Chris Harvey, United Veterans Legislative Council. I want to thank you for your time today. Also wanted to thank those before me that spoke about the UVLC, the 3 Nevada Veterans Legislative Symposias that have been held recently, and the unaccredited claims agents. Just from reviewing the input from the veterans at the legislative symposia, one of the top priorities that they are looking for is for there to be movement on the accreditation of predatory claims practitioners. So that will be one of the things that we pursue in the upcoming legislature. Thank you.
Seeing nobody in Carson City, AVH, is anybody on the phone line?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you, broadcast. And that brings us to our last and final agenda item, which is adjournment. This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 17th, 2026, beginning at 3:30 p.m. We are adjourned.